Good morning and Happy New Year. It is wonderful to see everybody, and it's wonderful to be here in beautiful Calvert County. Yes, beautiful Calvert County. And to all of you here, we just want to say thank you. Thank you not only for the leadership and for the focus to everybody within the county. The county is in remarkably good hands because you all are the ones who are continuing to lead them forward. But also thank you for making today happen. It is not lost on any one of us that this is a challenging endeavor when all of Maryland state government comes to a place. We always are try to be very intentional about getting out of Annapolis and actually getting out to communities, getting out to neighborhoods. But we also know that is also an arduous task. It is not simple. But the fact that you all have completely rolled out, I was gonna say the red carpet, but it's more the white carpet that we have out here, and just made us feel so comfortable, so at home, and so welcomed. We continue to see why this place is so special and why we will continue spending a lot of time over in Calvert County. So for not just what you did for us today, but what you do for the people of the county every single day, we just want to say God bless you and thank you for all you continue to do for each and every one of us. Thank you so much. And Buddy, where's Buddy at? Where is he? There he goes. Want to say thank you also, just for the individual time, for the friendship, and for the leadership. You said something earlier that I want to highlight. Also, by the way, I want to highlight the great tie that you have as well, our Calvert County tie, which is fantastic. It's beautiful. It's not quite Ravens purple, but it is a great tie. But you said something when we were just meeting earlier that I wanted to share with everybody. When you're like, progress doesn't have a political affiliation. And I want to tell you, not only to that do I say amen, I say that's the foundation of everything we're trying to get done. Right? And honestly, I think about the people all around our state, that's the mentality, that's the push, and that's the leadership that they deserve. The idea that there isn't one place nor a political party that has the market cornered on good ideas, nor on progress that we're trying to achieve. That our focus is making sure that the people are served. Our focus is making sure that the people are getting the very best of our state and our local governments. And your not just phrasing of that, but your reminder was not just really important. It really also just does underscore the kind of leadership that you've continued to bring. So to you, to all the county commissioners, to everybody in the county, we just want to say that we appreciate you guys from the bottom of our hearts, and God bless you, and thank you so much again. Thank you. So I wanted to first open up with just some remarks about why today is so special, and why it was just very intentional that we are not just starting the year here over in Calvert County, but also the announcements that we are making here today, because we think it doesn't just it's not just something I think is going to have a specific impact on the entire state of Maryland, but also just on Calvert County in particular. But before we do that, also, can we please just once again give a huge shout out to Alyssa and Jamar from the Chiefs team, who again continue to do spectacular work. For those who know, Alyssa and Jamar work for our chief of staff, our fantastic chief of staff, Fagan Harris, and we had conversations very early in the year about how we wanted. Very early in administration about how we want to do cabinet meetings, and sitting there with Chief, we came up with basic guidance, and some of the basic guidance was this: is that we are going to increase the op tempo, because making sure that you can get around this fantastic group of leaders as often as possible was really important. So we literally do cabinet meetings, full cabinet meetings, once a month, and so which is a significant up-tempo increase than we've seen historically. But the other thing is that we never do them in Annapolis. We all know Annapolis. We know what it looks like. The importance of these cabinet meetings is really making sure that we're getting in front of the people and that we're spending time with the leaders and really hearing from you all, what should we see? If we have a day where you have every cabinet secretary and agency head in the state of Maryland here, where do you want us to go? What do you want to show off? What do you think needs addressing? And so we're just very deliberate about making sure that we are getting to every single corner of the state because we really feel like that's the foundation of when we say leave no one behind. That's what that means. Just making sure that we are everywhere. And we knew that even though when people coming and saying, well, that's not usually the way that it is done. Usually cabinet meetings happen in the governor's reception room in the state capitol. We said, yeah, but we're not doing things in this administration because that's the way they've always been done. That's not something that moves us. It's not something that guides our decision making. What's been done before is not a motivating factor. What is the motivating factor is what's best practice, what's the best way of actually seeing people, and what's the best way that we can produce a state government that actually honors the beauty of the state and honors the beauty of the people of the state, that we have no interest of building someone else's government. We have an interest in building our own, and one that is going to be responsive and actually meet people where they are. And so when I think about what that means, and part of the thing we're going to talk about today, it is about how are we thinking about government modernization. Because government modernization is not just about where we hold meetings. Government modernization is about how we do our work. It's about making sure we have systems in place, making sure we can be efficient, and making sure we're actually measuring things. You know, I remember we had a reporter a couple days ago ask a question, and they said, you know, well, how are you thinking differently about data and modeling and measuring? And the thing I said was, well, first you have to make a decision that you're actually going to do it. You have to make a decision you're actually going to model, and you're actually going to measure, and you're actually going to hold measurements of accountability. Because if you don't choose to do it, then you can say all you want that this is important, but it's not. Show me the numbers. Show me the data. Show me how we are going to make things more effective. And it is why that when we came on board, we said that we are going to do things like, just earlier this year, having the first state plan, literally in nearly a decade, that the state of Maryland has, because we are going to put down on paper and put real measurements as to what is the direction of the state that we're going in, and how do we need every single element of state government to help us get there. It's the reason that we have implemented a performance cabinet. And the beautiful thing about a performance cabinet, it's not just the benchmarks that we're hoping to achieve, it's very clear about who do we need involved in it. And the great thing about the performance cabinets that you'll see that we have within our state government, whether they're performance cabinets on child poverty, whether it's performance cabinets on economic advancement, whether it's performance cabinets on public safety, is that, do you know who's involved in those things? Everybody. Because tell me how you're going to talk about economic advancement if you don't have every single cabinet secretary involvement. Tell me how you're talking about public safety, and if you're just speaking to our head of state police, as fantastic as Colonel Butler is. Everybody's going to have a role in that. And so these are all things and structural changes that we've been making in the way that government is actually working and moving, and we knew that was going to be incredibly important to be able to get done. And earlier this morning, I signed an executive order to launch a new Government Modernization Initiative for the state of Maryland. A Government Modernization Initiative that says very clearly how we are going to streamline and speed up our work, and making sure that we are thinking deeply and critically about all expenses that we have. And I think about why that matters, and I'll get into a second what exactly that means. I'll get into why it matters. I think about it almost like it's like buying a house. So for example, when you go and you buy a house, sometimes you can negotiate with the person who owned it before and say, well, can you fix this or can you fix that, and that type of thing. And then sometimes you have to buy houses as is, right? They're like, listen, whatever you walk into, it's yours now. Well, we knew that there were real challenges within state government when it came to basic efficiencies. We knew that we had antiquated systems, but we could not negotiate and say, well, can you fix X, Y, and Z before we show up? We bought the house as is. And sometimes when you buy houses as is, you find yourself actually spending on things because systems don't work. So for example, when you go into a house and I know my windows need fixing, right? So here's the problem. If you need to fix your windows and you say, well, I'm not going to fix my windows right now because it's not a priority, and then you get a snowstorm, right? Now it's cold. So now I'm running to the store and I'm buying blankets and I'm buying extra clothes and I'm jacking up my heat, and my heat's now more expensive, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm spending all this money on new clothes and new blankets and my heating system. It's because of the window. If your window was working, you wouldn't have to buy new clothes. If your window was working, you wouldn't have to buy blankets. If your window was working, you would not be paying the exorbitant heating costs. Fix the window. But when you come in as a home as an as-is, you have to make sure you're very clear about what are the things that actually have to get fixed. And so when you have problems, and sometimes when these simple problems get unexamined, when these simple fixes go unfixed, you end up papering over. And that's oftentimes what state government found itself doing, is trying to paper over things that we actually should have just fixed foundations in the first place. That's what the government modernization is actually focusing on us doing. It's finding the breakage in the systems and fixing them so we're not papering it over in more expensive ways later on. And so, for example, when we're talking about some of these things, whether it is, iPads or laptops that we all get when we enter into state government, right? We all get our laptops when we're entering into state government. Here's the point. Oh, here's, perfect, okay. Oh, this looks very familiar. All of you, this looks very familiar, doesn't it? Right? Our government-issued laptops. Here's the amazing thing about government-issued laptops. It's the same laptop whether it is issued to you in November or it's the same laptop whether it's issued to you in July, right? It's the same laptop whether it's issued to you at the Department of Labor or it's the same laptop issued to the Department of Commerce. There's no difference, right? You know what there is a difference is? How much you pay for them. Where some departments you'll get and you're paying $1,000 for the laptop. Some departments you'll get, you're paying $1,400 for the laptop. Some departments you're paying $1,600 for the laptop. It's the same piece of machinery. But we're paying different prices because we are not streamlining processes, right? It's the same thing whether we're talking about our vehicles, our wonderful state vehicles that come that allow people to get around, and just by asking simple questions and saying, what's the basic usage that we have sometimes in these vehicles? And here, after asking basic questions, we found this out, that the state government has a fleet of thousands of passenger vehicles that are going on to the multiple different departments, and people have our state vehicles so that you can move around. There are hundreds of state vehicles that are driven less than 1,200 miles a year. Hundreds of state vehicles that literally people are putting on 50 and 60 and 70 miles a month, which, by the way, I found fascinating. I think we must have put like 12,000 the first month alone in our vehicles. But here's the point. We're going to continue spending the same thing on state vehicles, even though many of those vehicles are not even driven. How can we be more efficient? These are taxpayer dollars. They deserve better. They deserve greater accountability. And so just by looking at some of the basic efficiencies that we have on board, we've now estimated which is still staggering to me that this year alone, we could save the state $50 million. Basic efficiencies. Get the small stuff right. And that's $50 million this year alone. How we're thinking about fleet management. How we're thinking about IT consolidation. How we're thinking about procurement. How we're thinking about real estate. And I know this stuff might sound very quonky and detailed and very nerdy, and I get it. But like, the details are in the nerdy. The savings are in the nerdy. We've got to get real specific on this stuff, because when we get really specific on what it is that we're looking for, we're going to be able to save the taxpayer dollars. And it's going to happen with all of us. Every department, every agency, every single state coordinated area, and also the places that we know are essentially state government adjacent. And the thing that we're really hoping to do, and why we're really excited to have this announcement here, is we want to work with the locals to be able to do the same thing. How do we make the state of Maryland, the entire state of Maryland, the most efficient state in America with its taxpayer dollars? We can do this work. And we're going to get it done because we know we can actually get it done together. And so we know the challenges that exist. We know the challenges that we inherited. We know that we are walking in having inherited one of the greatest fiscal crises that we have seen in a generation in our state. We know that we have come in with literally the largest structural, we've inherited a budget that literally has the largest structural deficit that we have seen in 2 decades. And again, those are not our numbers. That's just math. That's DLS's numbers. We understand that we have inherited a state government that the 7 years before we came on board, that we saw spending increase by 70% in the 7 years prior, and we saw Maryland's GDP essentially grow less than half of the national average. We were spending, we just weren't growing. And that has created a massive structural deficit that we have to be able to address. And it's created a chance for this team to show what we're made of. Because we will address it, and Maryland will grow. Maryland will focus on economic growth, and Maryland's going to win. But that also has to happen by making sure that we're modernizing our systems. It also has to happen by making sure that we're good stewards of taxpayer dollars. It also has to happen to make sure that we're being fiscally disciplined in the way we're approaching our work, and we're being sound stewards of the departments and agencies and governments and the seats that we're now sitting in. This is going to be a great gift that we're going to be able to pass off to those who are going to come after us when they're going to see that Maryland is a place that in the moment of challenge that we're actually able to get this thing right. And so we are so grateful to all of you here for not just the great leadership that you continue to show to the people of Calvert County. We're incredibly grateful to be your partners in this work. I cannot stress enough how good this team is. I cannot stress enough how good this leadership is. How lucky both the Lieutenant Governor and I are to work with such amazing human beings and such talented professionals who are all really eager to be your partners in this work too, and who understand that in this moment, that the assignment of making sure that we have the best government and the most efficient government and the most modernized government in the country is a task that we will joyfully embrace, and we're gonna get this work done together. And so, thank you all for hosting us. Thank you for the leadership. We are looking forward to a great day and some really good food, which I'm very grateful for coordinating all the food. And we're looking forward to a very good year. 2025 is ours, and we're going to seize it. So bless you guys, and thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, guys. But before I want to turn it before we get to the business of the day, I want to turn over to you and just say with a deep degree of thanks and appreciation for everything you are and everything you do.
Absolutely. So, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Cabinet members, on behalf of myself, the fellow county commissioners, and all the citizens of Calvert County, we want to welcome you to Calvert County because it is such a special place. And I want to thank your team for helping coordinate, make sure this event goes off without a hitch. You are going to eat the best you've ever eaten. I don't care where I just want to give you a few facts about Calvert County. We're 35 miles long, about 6 or 7 miles wide. We were the home of Mike Miller, Louis Goldstein, and George Owings. We are also the home of the 3 best secretaries of agriculture Maryland ever had. The jury's still out. We also are home to Maryland's only nuclear power facility that generates over 1/3 of the state's electrical power. We also are home to the largest LNG facility on the East Coast, probably in the country, and it's right over the other side of those trees. But Calvert County is a very wonderful and special place. We have 93,000 citizens. We take care of each other. We look out for each other. It's a very safe community. Thank you, Sheriff Cox. We have an excellent school system. People have come here. When I graduated from high school in 1973, I know I don't look that old. We had 19,000 people here. Today we have 93,000 people. We saw a tremendous amount of growth back in the 80s and 90s, and it's a special, special place. But I do want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you to come back, bring your families. We have some wonderful amenities here in Calvert County, the Calvert Marine Museum, Anna Marie Gardens, Jefferson Patterson Park, the beaches. Come back, bring your families, spend a weekend, spend money, and then go home. We are a peninsula. We have one main road that you drove in. We've had this meeting here today to make sure you drove through the entire county. We have one road. Our citizens would tell you, if you asked them today how is growth, they would tell you it's uncontrolled. We grow at about 0.5% a year over a 10-year average. Some of you would say we are stagnant and not growing. Our citizens would argue about it. But it is a special and wonderful place. And please, we know you're going to have a great day. I have no doubt you're going to have a wonderful day here. I did this for 8 years. It was a great opportunity, and you all will realize that as you do more of these, you get to realize the state of Maryland and how great it is. You're not going to eat any place better than you're going to eat here today. So just set your expectations. But we are very fortunate and want to welcome all of you to be here today, and love to have you back. Anytime you want to come back, we'll have you back.
Amen.
So, have a great day, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.